Twilight is a movie that came out in 2008 based on the... Sorry, this is what I'm doing next. Based on the book of the same name, which was inspired by 9/11. Kinda. It opens on a forest with Bella monologuing about how she'd never given much thought to how she'd die, which is unusual for a teenager, but then says if she had to die, she'd like to die in place of someone she loves. Anyway, she is leaving her home in Phoenix to go live with her dad because her mum and her new husband want to go travelling because she's a free spirit, or just a bad parent, who knows. Her father lives in the cloudy small town of Forks. He is a policeman chief of police, and is Charlie. Bella used to spend a lot of time in Forks when she was younger, but hasn't for a while. They arrive at the new house. Charlie shows Bella to her room and doesn't hover. Then she meets Jacob, her childhood friend. They used to make mud pies together. Yep. Anyway, it's a little awkward between them, and Jacob looks like he might have some feelings for Bella. Anyway, it turns out they were dropping off a car for Bella that Charlie bought for her, and Jacob rebuilt the engine. She then drives her new car to school, where she knows no one, and it's the middle of March and people look at her judgmentally. She then meets Eric, the self-proclaimed eyes and ears of high school. He also seems like he might have some feelings for Bella. She then goes to volleyball class, or possibly just PE. She then hits Mike Newton in the head with a volleyball. He is the love interest in this movie for Jessica, who she meets shortly after, but Mike only has eyes for Bella. Bella then explains how she was kicked out of Arizona for being too white. At lunch, she sits with all the introduced characters so far, and also Rosita from The Walking Dead, but with glasses. Then some mysterious sexy people enter the school in their mid to late 20s, so a teacher immediately asks them to leave. Or not. They're the Cullens, the adopted children of Dr. Cullen, Rosalie and Emmett, Alice and Jasper and Edward Twilight. He's obviously gorgeous. They all sit down at their table, which has food on it, because they're just a bunch of regular food-eating people. Rosalie is holding an apple, which she also plans to eat soon. Bella then goes to school class and has to sit next to Edward, who acts very distant and almost sick the entire time. Perhaps he ate too much apple at lunch. We then cut to Bella having dinner with her dad at a local restaurant, where she is introduced to some of the locals, and ketchup. Later that night, Bella talks to her deadbeat mother on the phone, who is probably doing a drug. The next day she plans to confront Edward Twilight about his rude behaviour, but he doesn't come to class. One of the teenagers throws something at Bella and she appears to have a mild aneurysm. We then cut to a security guard being murdered by a few people. The next day Bella is leaving her house to go outside of it, when suddenly her car pulls up with new tyres that aren't bald. Charlie bought her some, but he has to leave now because a security guard has been murdered by some animals. But we just saw one get murdered by a few people. Could these two things be connected? I doubt it. And then Charlie tells her she's not in Phoenix anymore. The next day, when entering school class, Eric is trying to ask Bella to prom, but he is interrupted by Mike, who he calls real cute man. So I guess he's moved on already. If his feelings can be swayed so easily, he was never worth your time anyway, Bella. She then notices that Edward has returned to class. Bella asks where he has been. Edward explains he was out of town for normal personal human reasons. Bella replies pro-face, which is an odd choice. But then Edward agrees it's pro-face. So that's something, I guess. They then discuss the weather and her mother remarrying, and Bella pulls the thirstiest face ever witnessed by man. They then continue their discussion in the hallway, and the fluorescents mess with the appearance of Edward's eyes. A common human problem. Then Bella is getting into her car, when a car loses control and is headed straight for her. But Edward stops it with a brief adrenaline rush. Another common regular human ability, you can Google it. Jasper is upset. The next day, the kids are off on a school field trip. Before they leave, Mike asks Bella if she'll go to prom with him, but he is interrupted by her not caring. On the trip, Bella and Edward talk more. Mike asks Jessica to the prom? And Jessica says yes, and they live happily ever after. Eric enjoys worms. The next day at school, the Cullens are enjoying some human food in the cafeteria, which is a common thing that people do. The teens are going to La Push, which is a beach where they don't just surf the internet. Bella returns to talk to... Bella is there and she talks to Edward some more before leaving. Later at La Push, Bella catches up with Jacob and he tells her a little history about the Cullens and his ancestors and stuff. We then cut to 3 mysterious people harassing a fisherman. The next day, Bella is looking for Edward at school but cannot find him. Jessica explains that the Cullens do not come to school when the weather is nice because they are busy doing fun outdoorsy stuff in the nice weather, a very common human thing to do. But then Bella goes into town with Jessica and Rosita to buy some prom dresses and a book. Bella is then stalked by some grapey types, but is saved by Edward, who growls them away.
Wow.
He then takes her to dinner. On the date, Bella asks Edward how he knew she was in danger. Edward explains he's been following her and can read minds. He demonstrates this by reading all the minds in the restaurant. They are all thinking about money, sex, or cat. But I think the cat guy might have been thinking about sex too. But Edward, being old-fashioned, didn't understand what a different term for cat actually means. He also says he can't read her mind and is having trouble staying away from her. Bella responds with another thirsty as face. On the drive home, she touches his hand and it is cold. They are stopped on the way home by Charlie, who has discovered another victim of a mysterious animal attack. The very same fisherman who was harassed by those mysterious people, who must have left before the animal attacked him. Bella then goes home and researches vampires, which is completely off topic, Bella. The next day at school, Bella follows Edward to the forest for a private chat. She confronts him about being a vampire, which I have no idea where that wild allegation came from, but whatever. Edward confirms that he is indeed a vampire. Edward then shows Bella his sparkly skin of a killer. He then proceeds to do anything to deter her from falling in love with him, but nothing works. Even throwing a tree seems to do it for her. Edward is now in a tree, like a spider monkey, one might say. Anyway, he tells Bella that his family does not kill humans. They live off of animal blood. He tells her about how much trouble he is having not killing her, because her blood smells good, which is a metaphor for Mormon chastity, according to scholars. They then lie down in the grass and enjoy Edward's sparkles. Bella is now sure that Edward is a vampire. I'm still on the fence. And then he thirsted for... he thirsted for her blood. And thirdly, that she was unconditionally and irrevocably in love with him. But I still have hope for Mike. Oh, look at little Mikey. He's doing a dance. Then they arrive at school together, basically declaring to the entire school that they are an item. Edward is wearing sunglasses. Hello. They then go for a walk and Edward explains how he became a vampire in 1918. Carlisle turned him when he was dying of Spanish influenza, and Alice can see the future. Edward decides to introduce her to his family. His family rarely get the chance to cook, so they are making Bella Italian food. But stupid Bella already ate, so Rosalie smashes a bowl. He then gives her a tour of the house. It's got various house stuff in it, furniture and junk. He then shows her to his room, and he doesn't sleep, but he has so much music, including Debussy, which I may have pronounced wrong. Bella then has to hold on tight, Spider Monkey. Bella is now in a tree with Edward. He then erotically plays piano for her. Charlie then discovers a footprint. Mike then tells Bella he doesn't approve of her dating Edward, so she immediately dumps him. Later that night, Edward sneaks in through the window and tells Bella he often does that to watch her sleep, which he finds fascinating, which isn't creepy. He doesn't sleep, that's why he finds it fascinating. It's a very normal, curious thing to do. He doesn't sleep. It's just a normal, regular thing that anyone does. Sorry. The next day, Bella introduces Charlie to Edward Twilight the vampire. They're off to play baseball with the Twilight family. They let Bella referee and they'll have a baseball turn. What? But then suddenly 3 new vampires show up, very slowly. Laurie, Victoria and James. They ask to play baseball as well. But then one of them smells Bella and she's so smelly that no one wants to play anymore. Well, not really. It turns out that James is an obsessive hunter and he wants to kill Bella, so they have to run away from him. They make a quick stop on the way out of town to break Charlie's heart. Anyway, they make plans to try lead James away from Bella, but then Alice gets a vision telling her that James had figured out the trail was false and draws the other part of her vision, which Bella recognizes as a ballet school she once went to. She then gets a call from James telling her to meet him at said ballet school and come alone with no vampires or he'll kill his mum, or her mum. On the way to meet James, Bella remembers that she hasn't given much thought to how she would die, but dying in the place of someone she loves seems like a good way to go. That's from the start, you see. She arrives at the ballet school class place. It turns out James never had her mum, just a videotape of her. So then he starts attacking Bella, but then Edward shows up and attacks him. So he attacks Edward, but then the other vampires turn up and attack him together and he dies. But not before he got the chance to bite Bella. And soon the venom will turn her into a vampire. So Edward has to suck it out and try to resist drinking all her blood or she will die. Then she wakes up in the hospital, so I guess he didn't. Her mum is there to make sure she is okay. And Edward is pretending to sleep. So a couple days later they head for prom, and Bella has a cast or something like that on her leg. She catches up with Jacob on the way and he tells her to break up with Edward, so she immediately does, and the movie ends. Later that evening, at the prom, Bella compliments Jane's cleavage. I don't think Jane was her name. The Anna Kendrick one. And Eric, or Mike, is DJing the prom. I forgot which one is which. Bella and Edward decide to end the night with a romantic visit to the gazebo and have a dance. Bella asks Edward why he saved her instead of just letting her turn into a vampire so they could be together forever. Edward is hesitant because he doesn't want her to be a monster or whatever. But Bella has decided she wants to be a vampire. It ends on a shot of Victoria looking angry because they killed her boyfriend. And that's the end of Twilight for now.